we'll continue on. This set up a schism within the Western Church between those who are following the Pope in Rome and those following the Pope in Avignon. And it went on for a number of years, 1378 to really. When it was about 30 years old, getting quite tired, the people of the kings and princes and bishops on both sides, those who are following Rome, those who are following Avignon, said this has to end. And during that 30-year period, some of the Roman popes were willing to step down and have a council, but the Avignon pope wasn't. And then when the Avignon Pope died and Benedict XIII came in, he wasn't willing. It flipped back and forth. But in no time could they get them all to agree. So in 1409, the cardinals and bishops of both those, not everyone, but many who were following the Pope in Rome or the anti-Pope in Avignon, got together and they opened a ecumenical council, what they called an ecumenical council, in Pisa, Italy. And they declared Benedict XIII deposed, and they declared Gregory XII, who was the Pope in Rome at the time, deposed, and they elected a new Pope, Peter Philargus, who was a Franciscan, and took the name Alexander V. This solved nothing. Now there were 3 popes. And while Alexander V otherwise seemed to live a morally upright life, his successor did not. And so John the 23rd, not to be confused with the John the 23rd of the 20th century, who each of these popes, each of these names that you see under the central column, and if you're looking at the screen, the right-hand column, there have been Roman Catholic popes since then who've taken those names, so not to be confused. This is not John the 23rd Roncalli, no. This is from the 1400s. And so just 6 years later, there's a renewed call to have an ecumenical council to get rid of this great schism, this great scandal and weakening of the church. Gregory XII held a thinly attended council just so that we can attempt to get to Constance. The Pisan anti-pope John the 23rd displaced Gregory XII from Rome. By this time, if you were counting up the number of kings and followers, those following the Pisan pope were the majority. Then those from Avignon, and Gregory XII, the Roman pope, had the smallest following at this point. So anti-pope John the 23rd, he got entangled in Italian politics very quickly. It seems to be something, a pastime, an easy pastime, getting entangled in Italian politics. And he needed the help of the German king, Sigismund. And the German king gave it to him, but at a price. And he didn't tell him the price until he had given him the help. He demanded that John call a council to meet in November 1414 in the Swiss town of Constance. So it would be free of all Italian politics, of French and Spanish ambitions, try to be as neutral as possible. The careful planning won over the French, English, German, and most Italians. Now, keep in mind, this is in the midst of the 100 Years' War, so not always peaceful negotiations. The Spanish did not initially attend the council because Benedict XIII, Pedro de Luna, who was the only surviving cardinal of that conclave that had elected Urban VI back in 1378, he's still alive and he won't die. But the Spanish didn't oppose the council. They didn't stand in the way. John the 23rd opened the council, and then when he found out what was going to happen, he fled. He fled, and the council started its work in deposing him. And he was later captured by the German king's forces, brought back to the council. He was charged with simony, perjury, and mismanagement of funds, and then he decides that he will step down. And the lay lords at Constance decide that Benedict XIII is rather stubborn. They're not going to approach him to resign personally. They're going to go after the Spanish kings and nobility to remove their support from him. And so then they turn their attention to Pope Gregory XII, the Roman Pope. He agrees to abdicate. He agrees to step down on the condition that the Council Fathers allow him to formally open the council. Now, wait a second. The council has opened, in one sense, back in 1414, back in November of 1414. This is the next year, and he says, I want to be able to open the council. And this is an important step. And so the Council Fathers agree to this, and his representative formally reopens the council in July of 1415. And we'll see what the effects of that are. The council confirmed all of Gregory's acts as pope. They received his cardinals as cardinals and promised that his officers would be allowed to keep their post. And before a new pope is elected, he dies. So there is no point at which there's two claimants to the office. So why is it important that Gregory XII say that I'm opening the council? Well, for one, the ecumenical council is that teaching in union with Peter, right? Peter speak the whole assembly of apostles, Peter in their midst. So without a pope, what is the council? It's missing something intrinsic, necessary, right? Even the council, the first council of Constantinople, where it was called without any papal legates, was later ratified, recognized by the Holy See. And Pisa, this didn't happen. And by the fact that Constance had deposed the so-called pope that opened it, they were now without it. And some of the bishops recognized this problem. You have this council that claims to be ecumenical, but there's no pope that it recognized. So by allowing Gregory to officially open the council, this makes what follows possibly ecumenical. So, all right? So, let's see. One of the things that had happened in the first 5 sessions is that one of the first 5 sessions had a document that